Bienvenue, benvenuti, and welcome to Expatriotical, the podcast for expats, travelers, and other adventurous souls. I'm Chandra, and after living as an expat with my husband and 4 children in 2 different countries for almost 6 years, I've learned the arts of pivoting during pitfalls, traveling tastefully for less, and soaking in amazing new cultures without losing your own. Join me as we dive into the joys and challenges of travel and the expat life in every episode. Bonjour, everyone. I am super excited to jump into the 3rd of our summer sit-down episodes where I sit down and interview fascinating people that have so kindly agreed to share a bit of their story with me. Today, I'm going to be doing part 1 of a 2-part interview with Paris photographer Katie Donnelly. Like many of you listening, Katie is an expat. She moved to France several years ago, but unlike some of us, she has chosen to stay, which gives her a unique perspective on life abroad. Katie is the owner of a thriving business that she has built from the ground up here in Paris, and today she is going to share just how she did that. So if you have dreams of starting your own business abroad, this episode is full of tips and wisdom to help you get going in that direction. Listen in. Okay, everybody. So today I have a very special guest. I'm very excited to have her today. Her name is Katie Donnelly. She is with me here in Paris, not in the apartment. That's I wish we could have done that. My interface and my computer, they don't want to talk to each other. But she's here in Paris with me. And Katie, could you please tell those that are listening that are new to knowing you, because some of my listeners know who you are already, but a little bit about who you are, your story, where you're from, and that sort of thing.
Well, hi, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much for such a beautiful opportunity and for thinking of me. So I'm Katie. I'm originally from New York. I have a portrait studio here in Paris. We do indoor in studio and then lots of on location, beautiful Parisian artwork. We specialize in wall art and making these beautiful memories to last. Personally, I have 2 kids. I don't know. I'm a
That's
happy
you.
person.
That's you.
That's me.
Okay. That's currently what you're doing. That's a lot. Running a business and being a mom and a wife. That's a
Yeah.
lot of stuff. Okay. So we're here. I will have put in the intro. Everybody will know that we're going to do 2 different parts to this interview because you have such a unique and interesting story. And the first part that we're going to focus on is basically why, like, your business and how you're here. But is that what made you want to come to Paris? Was it a lifelong dream just to live here? Can you share a little bit about that with us?
Sure. No, I know it was never on my radar to move to Paris. I always wanted to move to Europe. I visited Italy for the first time when I was 14, and I remember coming back from that trip and telling my parents that one day I was gonna move to Europe. And so funny enough, when I told my dad, "Hey, I met a French guy and I'm moving to France," he was like, "Okay, cool." And I was like, "Wait, you're not like surprised or shocked?" He's like, "You told me this when you were 14. I knew you one day you'd move."
That's amazing.
So yeah, no, but I met my husband in New York. We dated there. We did long distance for a while, and then we wanted to be on the same continent.
I mean, that's
And
reasonable.
so I moved to France and I was a student for a year here. During that time, I registered my business. I was a professional photographer. I worked for a family portrait studio in New York before.
Okay.
So, yeah, so I don't know, love brought me to Paris.
Love
And
Friday. Oh,
then,
that's so romantic.
yeah, and then, yeah, it took me a few years to fall in love with Paris, but here I am. So.
There you go. And so would you say that love is the reason you stayed longer, or had you fallen in love with Paris itself?
No, I definitely stayed longer because we just started building our lives here. I built my business here. We weren't married for the first few years that I was living here. So, I mean, we didn't want to get married for a green card or anything like that. So yeah, it was just the logistics where I stayed. And then when we started building our life here, it was just, yeah, I don't know, we thought about moving back actually after we got married, and we started the green card application and kind of drew it out for a really long time and just recently put the kibosh on it because
Okay.
we're happy here. And so that was a big decision, but something that, I'd been thinking about for like many years now, especially since having kids. I think honestly, having children here, that solidified a lot of my feelings about living here. We're just like living in a country that's just all about community, and like really supports families and parents and the equality between them.
Okay, that's really great. So, you mentioned your business and you mentioned registering it. So, maybe that was part of the original steps that you took to grow your business. And what are some of the other things that you did, or maybe some of the things that you found were successful as you're like, okay, this is what I'm going to do here. Like, I mean, maybe you did other things too. I don't know if you were, tried to be a server or that sort of thing. But what were some of the steps, and which ones did you find the most successful to help you?
Yeah, great question. So literally never envisioned doing anything else here.
Okay.
It's funny, like now that I'm like, oh, I never thought about, oh, if I were to work somewhere else, what would I do? It just always was, I do exactly what I want to do. Why would I want to do anything else? Like, I feel like I am the luckiest person to be able to, live doing their passion and learn things every day and meet new incredible people every day and make art. And yeah, I just feel very, very lucky and grateful for that. So, and from the beginning, I had been doing it for a few years in New York, so it wasn't like a career change or anything.
Yeah,
The difference was that it was my business this time, and so I had to learn all the business things. So yeah, I think like in a new country, like for me, the first thing was I had to learn French. A lot of our clients are English speaking, but if your business is registered in another country, you need to kind of know the legalities and, or at
absolutely.
least try to. So I learned that. And in the middle of learning it, I registered my business. And then the biggest thing I did is I consumed just like so much free stuff online about building a website and learning SEO and learning on marketing, learning all the things that I just didn't know at all,
Okay.
how to build a website, and kind of like the business things and marketing things. And I read a lot and kept work because I knew like not to, I don't know, I don't want to be like, oh yeah, I'm the best, but like I knew I had the photography part down. I'd been doing it professionally for
Yes.
years. I loved what I was doing. I love working with families, with real people. So I knew I didn't really have to, I had confidence there already, and it was the business aspect that I didn't, I knew I could learn, anyone can learn anything. Um, so, but you just have to put in the work. So I knew that that's where I was like lacking.
So would you say that the learning the SEO, search engine optimization stuff, learning that language, learning how to build your website, would you say that online is what help your business to take off, or also
For
would
sure.
word for sure that? Okay. Got
Yeah,
it.
for sure. And then absolutely word of mouth. Like my first clients, the first people in my portfolio here were friends, and then they told their friends, and some of them hired me. And then some people found me on like mom groups or on my website, and then their friends came in. And so we do have even clients who still have followed me from that very beginning who come back, which is really, really cool. And but yeah, so like that word of mouth, those referrals and stuff, that's amazing. But I don't like to have my eggs all in one basket.
Of course not. Yeah.
And so yeah, no, I do think it's really important to like know different ways of getting people in the door, Because even if you have the best product, the best service, the best everything, if no one sees it, it's like, if a tree falls in the forest and no one hears it, did it actually fall?
Yeah.
Like you have to put it in front of people. And so you have to learn that as well, like almost like sales, selling yourself, how to write properly on a website to get your message across. It's stuff that I'm still learning, honestly. Like it never stops learning. And I still consume a ton of marketing stuff, and I'm a member of some groups and masterminds, and so that, taking it to the next level. But absolutely at the beginning, I just learned massive, massive, massive amounts of information from free blogs and YouTube and people who were, I couldn't afford it to invest anything more than time in myself at the beginning.
Yeah, definitely. And would you say that just determination, like, I mean, most businesses, I guess I don't know the trajectory of yours personally, but would just that will to succeed and want to stay in your craft, is that something that helped you through maybe some more lean years? Or would you say that, you know what, from the beginning, everything was at least manageable and then it started to grow?
So the first 6 months, obviously, like I feel like I had one client a month and then maybe two clients. And then I would say, so I registered my business in June, and then by March, I was pretty good for bookings. Like we could, I had a solid income.
That's wonderful.
And so yeah, there have obviously been times where I'm like was not anymore, but where I was like, especially at the beginning, you're on your last pennies at the end of the month, or trying to book something and realize like you just don't have the money for it, or you want to get a program or whatever, and it's just not possible, or you're like, all right, I'm going to put it on my credit card and then pay it off in 2 months. Um, so yeah, there have absolutely been those times, but I think like the foundation of that I wasn't starting artistically from zero. I think that also
Yes.
helped because I could actually have like give a product that I knew was beautiful, and I knew I was charging a certain amount in New York at the studio that I was working for there. So I already knew like a lot of my worth. And I think that's a big thing that people are often start from the beginning, at least as artists, where it's like you're starting and your work just isn't as good as the prices that you need to be maybe sustainable
Yes.
or profitable. Um, you're learning all of these things at the same time. I think by the time I started my business, I was farther along in my artistic career.
Yeah.
Um, so that definitely made a difference in it
That's
for
really good to
sure.
hear. I just wanted to get that out there so that people like understood that it was. I mean, it did take some time. It sounds like it was like
Yeah.
successful pretty rapidly, but nonetheless, there were those times where you're like, "Ooh, the budget's getting tight," and then you just kept
Oh, for
persevering. You
sure.
know.
For sure. And I mean, yeah. And even when, like, at yeah, I would say like I don't know, even up to like 2019 sometimes, where I was like I didn't budget properly or whatever. You're like you think the bookings are going to come in, but then they don't, or they're sporadic. And so there is that like you I don't know, that give and take of like what you can predict and what you can't predict. So yeah, even up to then, because as you grow, then I had a kid in 2019. Your needs grow when you have children financially.
Absolutely. Yes.
And then I could work less because I wanted to be with her, and took some time off and stuff. So it's just, I just learned a lot. I learned so much during that time. And I tried a lot of things. I failed at a lot of things. Some of them succeeded, and I just did what succeeded over and over and got better at them. So I think also just being willing to try new things, and to be bad at things at first, because you're trying them. You're not like purposely trying to be bad, but like to be okay with that. It's not going to be perfect, because in any case, it's going to evolve.
Yes.
So whether that be like a website or an offering or a price list or what have you, it doesn't have to be perfect from the beginning, because I can't tell you how many times I've evolved my offering, my price list, my just transitioned, totally shifted a bit the business into something else. um, and just had to, kind of redo and not reinvent, but yeah, just be okay with that. So now when I'm launching something or when I'm trying a new product out or doing something new within the business or a new marketing campaign or whatever, it's I feel much less pressure on it as well because I know that and we evolve it, like we look at the data and we change it really quickly, and it has to change, um, you know, for the better, and just always I don't know if that helps answer your question,
No,
but
it
yeah,
does.
it's there were definitely a lot of times where I feel like, oh, okay, I was losing. Um, but I think you just have to like lose to win sometimes and be okay with making those mistakes. And there are loads of times, like I'm thinking about one time where I got hit with this, like I changed my business because it was doing well, so I had to register as a different type of a different level, just technicalities in the French business law. And I didn't account for a big tax bill that hit the first year, that hit the second year, that was like all the taxes for the first year, and then I had to pay this like huge sum over a month, and I was like, how am I going to do this? And it's just somehow you just get it done. You work really hard, you work really smart, and you pull out all the stops when you have to do something. And I think it was just never an option for me to not do it. It's things that I love. I work really, really hard. And yeah, especially at the beginning, like I was really truly consuming everything, and like you have to put the work in. I was putting
Yes.
so much work in, shooting for myself so much, writing for myself, figuring out what was working, figuring out what wasn't, and just doing so much. And that was also logistically easier because I didn't have another job, and I didn't have children, and we didn't have a huge amount of overhead expenses because we were young.
So basically, you touched on something, which is the taxes, which, and you don't have to share intimate, really personal details, but how have you found with managing that? Because I'm like, okay, you're still American and you have Americans come, here. How has that just been like a one step at a time kind of process where you learn as you go and figure things out? Or has it helped that your husband is French so he can be like, oh no, let me help you out here? How has that, because that part I feel like would be intimidating to me if I was trying to start a business in another country, because I think like, okay, I want to make sure I do this right, because at least in America, if you do it wrong, you can end up in jail, that kind of thing. So
Yeah, I mean, so yeah, I feel like I've made a lot of mistakes. So French people don't know more about French tax law than other anyone. It's just that they know the language. So my husband could help
yes,
me with translations if I wasn't understanding a word or whatever. But I've always worked with accountants, and they know the tax law. So I would say you
perfect.
just, I've yeah, start from whatever is easiest. Like I started as auto entrepreneur, and I'm not that anymore. But yeah, I think each time my business has grown, I've kind of maxed out of a type of how a tax regime, and then you have to move up.
A
Yeah,
bracket,
exactly. You
yeah.
kind of have to move up and re-register your business in a different way. And so that's been very interesting because it's been a huge learning curve. And even though I've asked all the questions, I still didn't understand everything properly. And you kind of just
Okay.
have to be willing to like not know everything. Or at least
Okay.
for me, it
Okay.
was like, well, I need to be registered. So, and here, like I live
That's
here,
true.
my business
Yeah.
operates here. It doesn't matter where my clients are coming from. I look at
Okay,
this as
that's
like
cool.
an art gallery. It doesn't matter if all of the clients are international. um, the art gallery functions in France.
Here. Yes.
And
Okay.
then yeah, things are shipped out. We ship all around the world. So then those shipping taxes are different, whether they're export, whether they're in the EU, whether they're, and so that's what changes. But like the taxability of my company is in France because
Okay.
it's French based. I'm not like
Okay.
traveling all over the world for it.
Got it. Okay, so that's good to know. So you basically can be concerned there. And I think a key bit that you said is just getting a good accountant on your side. I think that would be for any expat out there, like find a good accountant that can help, tax accountant that can help walk you through those
Yeah,
steps.
so like my accountant here for like French, my is a French accountant firm that deals with French business. If you were
Okay.
like, it's going to be different if you have a purely like online business. You could register that maybe in your home country. I don't really know. There's so many
Okay.
things that depend, but I think the biggest thing that a lot of Americans do here is that they think their accountant that they've used at home, they move to France and they think their accountant they use at home knows like tax law in France, and then they actually
Oh no.
don't, or they,
Yeah.
don't do the right things, or it's different because you do have, you are like, America does like to double dip. So like I get taxed here and then I have to file my taxes in the US. And so my business is taxed in the US as well. It's just because it's
As well.
um, an American person owned French company. So um,
Exactly.
yeah, so which
I,
is a whole nother thing. And I won't,
it's a whole
yeah, I
other
won't
thing.
get into
It's
that politically and views. It doesn't matter.
we don't have to go. Yeah, we'll have to go into the semantics, but I just wanted to put it out there, especially for the American listeners, that like this is something to be aware of you're responsible on both sides.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, but you're
so okay, so
notably, you're
let's
first responsible in the place that you where you live, like your resident
exactly.
is. So yeah.
Exactly, exactly. So let's talk about something
Yeah.
more funner than that. Something, could you tell us about some exciting milestones that you've had as a business owner abroad, an expat business owner? I add expat because growing up watching my own mom manage two businesses, there are a ton of challenges and there's milestones in general. But would you say that there have been some specific ones that you just felt like you really felt like you'd accomplished something? Or would you say, no, I would feel like it's the same everywhere?
I think that I've I'm proud of how we reach our clients in different ways, and because it's slightly different. Like I have a lot of colleagues who have portrait studios in the US and it's slightly different than what they can do, just because I'm trying to reach a lot of tourists and also locals, and it's just, it's different than only trying to reach locals. So yeah, I would say I'm proud of that. Honestly, in my business, the biggest thing I'm proud of is my team. I feel like I just stumbled upon really incredibly smart and competent and magical people, and they're part of, what makes KDP and my studio what it is now, and how we can give such like an amazing service to all of our clients. Um, and so it was very, very scary at first to like hire anyone or, bring anyone on, because that I had to like just do total mind shift where it's like, okay, the dream just gets bigger. Like it's, but it was my baby. Like it was like, I love this. I love what I do. I'm so protective. It's an emotional, business for me because I think it's what we do is really important for families. And especially like their inner, confidence. And I feel like having portraits done and on the wall is confidence building for everyone. Um, and yeah, and to like the idea that, we're taking childhood and putting it on the walls and not just like lost in a hard drive is also really, really important in this day and age, of, the disappearing Instagram post. And it's
Yes.
yeah, so it was very, very hard for me to like let go enough, that I had a few like false starts with that, and that was all completely my doing because it wasn't it wasn't about the people who I was working with. It was about how I was guiding them and showing them what I needed, and I didn't have
Okay.
clarity on that enough. And so they didn't know what to expect because I didn't know what I expected of them. Like it's just like a hard kind of thing to let go. And then finally, 3 years ago now, around this time, I brought my first two people on, and we kind of figured it out by the seat of our pants. And um, And yeah, started creating systems, started creating, and just went deep, deep, deep in the last two, like in the 2 years then that came. My team's like just evolved and changed drastically since then, um, and grown a lot. And now we have these like amazing systems in place that we can grow with and that everyone can thrive within. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but the biggest part is just like the magic that and expertise and insight that everyone brings, because yeah, it's weird, it's like it's not just me, but like I could have never done it alone, like it's so yeah, go that's I would say like my team, that's my biggest milestone, because yeah, I feel very
And what
lucky.
you're most proud of,
Oh,
you
for
think? Do you
sure.
think that's what?
For sure.
Okay.
I'm like at like every day I'm just like so in awe of them and what they're creating and what they're doing and managing. And I just, yeah, they all have like these really unique qualities um, that I feel like are wonderful. So,
That's awesome. Okay, so would you feel comfortable giving a shout out to your team and some these are the faces that if we go to KDP, go online and stuff that will or that maybe that we get in a chance to interact with.
sure. Yeah. So the first person who is always kind of like the first person you get in touch with, other than me, is Mallory, who's wonderful. And
Yes.
yeah, I don't even know how, like, just incredible, the most incredible person, and joyful and giving. And yeah, just, yeah, she's like, it feels like our glue. And then I have two incredible photographers on my team. And then the three of us do all of the photography and artwork. Magda and Zoe are wonderful and just talented and come in with their own ideas and their own creativity, and they're wonderful with the clients. I just get so much incredible client feedback about them. And then we have all of our back end, which is our production team, Mary and Alyssa, and they're really, really good, very detail oriented. They work with all of our clients. They work with our bringing the portraits that they've ordered to life into their walls and doing that whole segment. And yeah, and then we have Annie, who helps me. We do a lot of blog posts and she helps with that, and she's an incredible writer. Um, and we collaborate, or she does a lot of the things on her own. And so a lot of what you see on the blog, especially recently, is hers, or kind of a collaboration between us. And she also helps Mallory with emails and client contact, and she's really really good. I feel like everyone is great. And then I have on the French side, I have Errol, who's does all of our French client communication and is wonderful, and clients absolutely love him. And he also does our um, helps the clients afterwards choose their artwork and figure out what they want to order. And yeah, so it's just yeah, no, everyone's wonderful.
That's fantastic. So basically, you've kind of already. I have all these questions written out, but you've really kind of told us like how this has evolved from like Katie moving over here from New
Yeah.
York, trying everything out to this beautiful, thriving business with a wonderful team. And Katie, could you tell us basically how people can get in touch with you when they come to Paris and they want to book their family shoot, and or if they live in Paris and they want to book their family shoot, or a couple shoot, or an
Absolutely.
individual, or
Yeah,
whatever?
absolutely. Yeah, the best way is to go to the inquiry page on our website. It's just contact KatieDonnellyPhotography.com. Two N's, two L's, and Donnelly. And
No, that's important. That's important.
and yeah, our contact page is the best way. We always, even if whenever anyone gets in touch via text or on DMs on Instagram, I always forward them to that page. So we have all of the information that we need. And this way we can just tailor everything to them and our response. And then we can do everything via email or phone call or do a Zoom call, whatever works for for them.
Fantastic. That's awesome. Thank you so much for that information. And I will be putting all of that in the show notes as well so that people can reach out and contact you and ask questions and book appointments and all that wonderful, all that stuff. So you guys, Katie was such a delight, and the insight she shared about not being afraid to make mistakes and that you are going to evolve along the way is applicable not only to those who are starting a business abroad or thinking of it, but also to life in general and not just as an expat. Tune in next week for the second half of Katie's interview, where she shares her journey in facing one of the biggest challenges or fights of her life while living here in France. Okay, guys, I do think it is only fitting that Katie Donnelly Photography is the Shan Select for this episode. And once again, I am not an affiliate of KDP, nor do I get paid in any way. In fact, if anyone is hooking anyone up, it is Katie hooking me up with wonderful content for you all to listen to. But anyway, the Katie Donnelly Photography Studio is located here in the 16th arrondissement of Paris. But she and her team can, of course, shoot in many locations here in Paris. What I love about her photography is that it really captures the essence, the moment, the actual people in the photo in such a way that it makes them come alive. So if that is the kind of photo you are looking for, which face it, who doesn't want that kind of portrait, then Katie Donnelly Photography is where you should go. And another super cool thing is that because you are a listener to Expatriotical and you have listened to hopefully last week's episode, you will already recognize the familiar, cheery voice of Mallory when you reach out to set up a consultation or schedule a shoot, because Mallory was just on the podcast. But seriously, if you're planning a trip to Paris, or if you live here and want to commemorate that special time, reach out to Katie Donnelly Photography. You will be so glad that you did. You can find Katie and her team at katiedonnellyphotography.com. And like Katie said, that's 2 N's and 2 L's in Donnelly. And you can also follow her on Instagram. Her handle is @KatieDonnelly_. But don't worry, if you didn't catch all of that, I will have all of the links in the show notes. That's all for today's episode, everyone. I am looking forward to meeting you back here next week. But before I sign off, I just wanted to remind you that you can follow me on Instagram as well. The handle for the podcast is @Expatriotical, and that will also be in the show notes. By following there, you can stay up to date with any new things going on, and you can also contact me directly by DMing me there on Instagram. Thanks so much for tuning in today, guys. Have a fantastic rest of your week. This is Chandra Alley reminding you to live and travel in the know with Expatriotical.